Jumpin' In on Manx Radio.
With Howard and Chris Kane.
Hello.
Good evening.
And welcome. And yes, we are back after what seems an eternity. Was it Christmas last year? I can't remember now. You lose track. One moment we were doing albums of the year and the Christmas special, and then all of a sudden everything stopped. But we're back, which is the most important thing. It is 9 o'clock. It is a Saturday night. It is Jumpin' In, the best in modern and contemporary jazz with Chris and myself, H.
Yes, welcome back to this first post-lockdown edition of Jumpin' In, where we hope to make up for lost times. And despite the appearance of snowdrops summoning an early spring, the winter still seems desperately trying to hang on. So wrap up, folks, it can get cold out there, making it hard to light the barbecue, but on the plus side, easy to chill your G&T. Other drinks are available. Hopefully we can warm your cockles with some of the best modern jazz around. So what's been keeping your winkle on ice this week, H?
Plenty of ice around, isn't there?
Yes.
We will be, I'm looking at some outtakes, some pretty famous outtakes at that, some rare noise, and paying tribute, as we will do in more depth in a couple of weeks, to the sadly now late, definitely great Chick Corea.
And from me, a beginning, Madam, I'm Adam. I know, we missed your birthday. And to get the ball rolling, here's Mike Holliber and the Gotham Jazz Orchestra with Ruby Tuesday. nice indeed. Ruby Tuesday given perhaps an Ellingtonian workout or maybe a Schneiderian workout under the director of Mike Holliber and the Gotham Jazz Orchestra. Now, the eagle-eared amongst you may well remember that I featured the band's Hiding Out double album last year. Really enjoyed that listen, so now I'm working my way gradually back through their back catalogue. Taken from the 2009 release, Quake, that was Ruby Tuesday. Who wrote the song, H?
Ruby Tuesday. Who wrote the song? No, go on. I'm all ears.
It's the Strolling Bones. It was the Rolling Stones, of course, and led by Mike Holliber at the piano and on the Fender Rhodes, and aptly featuring Stones saxman, who coincidentally also plays in Maria Schneider's orchestra, Tim Rees on sax, and guitarist Steve Cardenas. A great band, this, and I'll definitely watch out for further, come to that, earlier releases too.
Absolutely, great stuff. It is, of course, Jumping In. Great to be back with you here on a Saturday night with all the best sounds in modern and contemporary jazz from Chris and myself, H. And this one, it's Rare Noise. Very many thanks to Lee at Rare Noise Records. I saw some interesting stuff out. Dropped them right. Said, oh, sure, I'll fire some stuff over. And some always interesting stuff from Rare Noise. Stuff which quite often needs a bit of deep listening, if you know what I mean. Not the sort of thing to whack on in the car when you're driving home from the chippy. This is World Dialogue, Stephen Thielen with the Kronos Quartet and also the Alpari Quartet, and it's called Chacon. told you, it's the sort of music you need to listen to. Not background music, not probably car music. Music to listen to on the headphones, listen to at home, whatever the case may be. Great stuff from Rare Noise Records, always an interesting label, and that is the music of Stefan Thielen, Thelen, if you don't know him. The album's called World Dialogue, brought to you, again, what would you call it? It's a bit of minimalistic, it's definitely in the third stream, like an awful lot of music on the Rare Noise label. Inclassifiable, I would say. So that's the Alpari Quartet and then the Kronos Quartet, worth checking out.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing about labels, isn't it? I mean, people constantly talk about contemporary classical music, which is an oxymoron if ever I heard one. But the Kronos Quartet have done a lot of jazz crossovers, of course, including some wonderful work of Steve Reich with Pat Metheny.
Yeah, definite echoes of some minimalist music in there, isn't there?
Yeah, different trains, fascinating, really interesting album that. Now, an album which may have slipped under many people's radar, particularly because of the global lockdown, which we were fortunate to escape the vast majority of, was Where We Started, the third release from pianist and composer Julian Shaw. So where shall we start? Perhaps the beginning would be a good idea. Here's Shaw and his group with Preludio. And there it moves into the next part of the suite, quite a reflective start perhaps to the album Where We Started from Julian Shaw, released at the end of last summer and sadly unable to be supported by a tour. That was Preludio. Pianist, educator and composer, Shaw described by Downbeat as a musician who has a clear sense of the bigger artistic picture and was complimented with his deep maturity as a band leader and composer. At just 34, Shaw studied under Danilo Perez at Berkeley. He went on to perform in the Panama Jazz Festival, working with Wayne Shorter, Brian Blade and John Patitucci, and he's assembled an all-star cast for this release with triple sax duties taken by Caroline Davis. We heard soloing on that track alongside Dinah Stevens, a favourite of mine, and Oded Tsua taking the third seat, and released from his duties with Maria Schneider, Ben Monda on guitar, with Edward Perez on bass and Colin Stranahan on the drums. It's out on the Tone Road label and worth dipping into.
Happy mix then. Oded Tsua, I think, had one of those albums on ECM last year, which got a great critical acclaim. Another listener, as they say, one to actually sit back and revel in. Listening to Jumpin In with myself, H, and Chris, and I'm sure anyone who anywhere near calling himself a jazz fan will be very sad to have heard in the last week or two of the passing of Chick Corea, one of the greats, of course, of contemporary and modern music. Died at the age of 79. It's reported from a rare form of cancer. Very sad in that he'd been super active up until very, very recently. And I think he had a gig book going way into 2021, COVID allowing, of course. We sadly never got to interview him. Saw him several times. I think the last time possibly might have been with Gary Burton.
In a duet
Festival Hall, in a duet session of some kind. Yeah, very fine.
Set, very nice.
Always a brilliant pianist. Also, always came across as very entertaining in that he always enjoyed banter with the audience and always fun. You know, he always seemed to have a bit of a smile on his face, which I think was the way he approached his music. Another musical chameleon. He was as happy doing sort of funk and Spanish music as he was playing with Miles, playing with Circle and doing free sort of music, doing the stuff with Return for Forever and the funk-orientated stuff. Could pretty much do anything he put his mind to, it seems to me. We will, and we are thinking at this very moment of planning a Chick Corea whole programme special in 2 or 3 weeks' time to look at the whole gamut of his music from the early days through. For now, we thought we'd pay a little tribute with a bit of old and new dreams, as it were. So first off, from Now He Sings, Now He Sobs in 1968. We will hear Samba Yantra, I think it is, and then we'll skip forward a mere 51 years to 2019, where it'll be still sounding fresh as paint with Trilogy 2, his career, second volume, 2 CD volume of his group with Christian McBride on the bass, Brian Blade on the drums, still sounding as fresh as paint.
Hello, this is Bugge Wesseltoft, and you're listening to Jumpin In at manxradio.com.
Marvellous stuff. Crepuscule with Nelly. He actually gets the title wrong, I think, when he announces it at some stage. Chick Corea at the keyboard, Christian McBride bass, Brian Blade at the drums in 20 19, and that was one of the albums of the year for a lot of critics that year in 2019, 2020, I think it was. 2019 it must have been, mustn't it, come to think of it. And there was obviously a Volume 1, that was Trilogy Volume 2. And before that, from 1968, Samba Yantra. Still sounds fantastic album, that one as well, on Blue Note. Now He Sings, Now He Sobs, with Miroslav Vitus at the bass. Roy Haynes, still going, I believe, in his 90s at the drums. And, as I say, a Chick Corea special in the next couple of weeks.
2 or 3 weeks' time, yeah. And obviously he had concerts planned ahead. He's also just released a new online teaching platform with lots of video. If you want to go and have some lessons from Chick, that will still be available, and I'm sure will help his family.
Now that I said that, I think it was Work I played, wasn't it? Not Creppy School of Nelly.
It was.
That. Yeah.
And we didn't consciously set out to make this quite such a pianistic show, but there we are. Hopefully the choices are none the worse for that. Now, hailing from Quito in Ecuador, not an area we feature all that often, Daniel Manchero, a pianist, composer and computer music designer, equally at home in the classical and jazz fields, and it was his unique style which grabbed my attention. Let's hear the first track from his latest solo release, sounding equally good, I'm sure, forwards or backwards. Here's Palindromo.
Right.
Featuring perhaps more than a little influence from the music of his homeland, that was Ecuadorian pianist Daniel Manchero with Palindromo, where he says he likes to give both hands equal importance in his playing. I can see where he's coming from. Or do I mean going?
Well, you can't see where he's coming from, as the case may be. Now then, I said we were going to have some outtakes. Not often we feature outtakes in this programme, but if it's time outtakes, then yes. The Brubeck estate have been, I dare say there's more to come of this, and you might have seen this or even heard it. The Dave Brubeck Quartet, previously unreleased takes from the original 59 sessions. So in other words, one of the most famous jazz albums from the great year of 59. Things like Kind of Blue, of course, jump to mind as to some of the Ornette Coleman stuff and Charlie Mingus. But from Dave Brubeck, of course, Time Out with the immortal track Take 5 and things like Blue Rondo, a la Turk, 3 to Get Ready and such like. They did alternate takes, as they often did, before deciding which ones to release in the final album, which are the ones which are ingrained in your head forever. However, there were other takes. So, take 5 might have sounded like this. Take 5, as it might have sounded had they gone for that take. Completely different drum solos, different improvisations in between. The head the same, of course, and the theme you'll recognise. Time outtakes from the Brubeck Estates of Brubeck Edition Records, well worth checking out. The 25th of June it was, evening session. Brubeck and Macero thought they would come back to it. They played it loads of times and did lots of different takes before they settled on the final one. And Dan Brubeck, Dave's son, who's a drummer himself, says it's one of the most successful creative collaborations. At the sound checks, Joe used to play around with 5/4 rhythms. Paul Desmond liked what he heard, began to join in with some intriguing melodies, and Dad helped Paul arrange his melodic ideas and came up with a vamp that glued the whole thing together. It became a jazz anthem for his generation. Great stuff, worth checking.
Definitely worth checking out, and still a great track today, not diminished in any way. Now, this last track for today's show was meant to be a birthday celebration back at the beginning of January, but as we know, things didn't quite work out that way. So how do you celebrate a 79th birthday? A quiet game of bowls, tea and cakes perhaps? Or if you're John McLaughlin, despite being under lockdown and having your band Fourth Dimension scattered around the globe, you get the boys together for a jam and give all the proceeds to musicians who are unable to work. With an old Mavish new favourite, we'll leave you in the capable hands of Gary Husband on keys in London, Etienne Mbap on bass in Paris, Ranjit Barot on drums in Mumbai, and of course the belated birthday boy John McLaughlin at home in Monaco. Taken from the 1971 seminal release In a Mounting Flame, here's a new take on You Know. We'll see you next week.
It will indeed. Take care.
Bye for now.